Attention, everybody. The views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and/or their affiliate and subordinate ministries and/or nonprofits. Now, without any further ado, it's a man with a plan to put gold in your hand, Tony Hammock.
Thank you, Matt. Hey, great to be back and have a full show today, unlike last week when we had to cut it short due to some construction outside. But I'm glad you have decided to join us today. We've got a lot of information. If you're here in Southwest Missouri, you know it's a glorious morning out there, nice and sunny. Although I guess there might be some moisture later on from this hurricane that hit Gulf Shores earlier. I think its name's Lucy or something like that. So anyway, without any further ado, let's get going here. And thanks for tuning in, all you folks out there in Acts Ministry land. You know, it's funny, the little things that get me going and excited, and I normally don't talk about health-related products, but this morning I was kind of like, kind of getting into my morning and stuff, and I saw this article that was about Phil Mickelson. And if you're a golfer, you know who Lefty is. And of all things, unlike a lot of athletes and celebrities these days that are starting tequila companies and scotch companies and all these other things and stuff like that, Mr. Phil has started a coffee company, and it's called Coffee for Wellness. And they're not even shipping yet. They don't ship till next week. But I was reading through his product, and first off, they go and they get their coffee beans from Ethiopia, and then they have L-theanine in it, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. They've got MCT powder, and I know somebody's talking about the other product that's got MCT in there and stuff. They got collagen, and they got cinnamon, and they got Himalayan pink salt to provide electrolytes. And for some reason, I just thought that, was kind of neat. So I went ahead and placed an order for it to come out next week. And apparently Phil has lost all kind of weight using this, and his health has just really improved. And I guess they're playing this week. I think it's this week at Winged Foot is the U.S. Open. This season, or this year, I should say, with COVID-19, all the sports seem to be kind of off kilter. I was just listening to the radio on the way in, and the Big Ten has now decided they're going to play a truncated season of like 8 games or something. And, they just had so much invested and whatnot that they, I guess, couldn't go without trying. And of course, if the COVID-19, has a big impact on the scholar athletes and stuff, they'll take and make changes and or just cancel. But anyway, it should be an interesting product here, this benefit or coffee for wellness. Speaking of wellness, let's do this. Let's get right into our devotional. One, because I've got it queued up on my phone. And two, I've just got a lot of stuff that I kind of wanted to go over this morning. And this week's devotional is Glorious Grace, Limitless Love. Whenever I walk the slums, I am challenged to lay down my judgment and pick up his mercy, to let go of my criticism and take hold of his acceptance, to leave behind my own ideals and expectations and lay hold of his grace once again. You and I are deserving of the transformational grace and love of Jesus than any slum dweller. We are not made worthy, righteous, or deserving by what we have or haven't done, but solely by what Jesus himself did. It is not our right to judge those around us. Instead, it's our job to show mercy, love, and grace to all people in all circumstances, just as we ourselves have received it. God saved you by his grace when you believed, and you can't take credit for this. It is a gift from God. That's Ephesians 2:8. I have to admit that at times I have found the outrageousness of this grace offensive to my small, naturally limited mind. However, I am learning to allow it to offend me. I want it to challenge and change my heart to become more like Jesus. At times I have failed to understand how it can be possible for this grace to cover not only the desperate situations I have come across, but also my own brokenness, mistakes, and regrets. But still it does. This grace confounds the wise. It challenges the religious. It shatters our man-made ideals and brings down the lofty. It is poured out in ways our human minds cannot always accept or understand. The fruit of it is beautiful and real. Its fragrance fills and overwhelms our senses. Once you collide with it, nothing is ever the same again. God's heart for the poor is obvious. It is written about all through Scripture. His heart for the orphan and the widow is undeniable. He sees beyond the dirt, the addiction, the violence, and bad choices. He sees beyond the mistakes, the anger, and the regret. He sees those he loves, those he created, and those he longs to call his own. We have to be a part of the answer to these huge challenges, to be the hands and feet of Jesus, a hurting, broken, confused, and frightened world. So, thoughts? You're always welcome to call in or write in or text in or however you like to communicate. If you don't have Matt's number, we'll get it for you. Mine's 417-755-0700. And I like this particular course we're on. Remember how I told you I found it? One morning I got up and I didn't necessarily want to talk about, just looking for stewardship. I plugged in gold, and this one popped up. And then when wondering if it was metals related and stuff, I started reading it. And it wasn't necessarily about metals, but it was about the gold lining or silver lining that we can find in people. And obviously it's from Scripture and stuff. So I'm just really getting a kick out of it. And this one holds true. And right there at the end, it does that thing we've talked about before, which Jim Whining is all about, which is, it's not our place to be complacent. We're not supposed to just, take this grace that God has given us and hold it and cherish it and, keep it to ourselves. We're supposed to take and share it, and especially if we can share it with somebody who needs it. And I'm sure that we all have people in our world that, if you think about it, they probably need some encouragement and a way to be introduced to Jesus Christ. So I know our show is about alternative assets, but it is also broadcast on a Christian broadcasting channel. So I like to kind of keep a little bit of a theme going there so that we can all stay on the same page. And speaking of the same page, we're going to look at some metals. I guess as we speak, the gold ask, that's the price you can buy it at. An ounce of gold right now is $1,965.30. And the silver ask is $27.29 an ounce. Now, I don't know if that means much to you, but if you've been tracking the show, you know those numbers are getting bigger and bigger as the weeks go by. In fact, just real quick, let me give you a little rundown here on the gold one. So in the last 30 days, okay, this is interesting. Actually, in the last 30 days, gold is down $20. So it was $19.85 30 days ago, somewhere in the last 30 days. And for the year, and we've been broadcasting for over a year, so keep this in mind, gold is up $465.70. I hope that as a listener of this show, you latched onto some gold back when it was $465.70 less an ounce. Now, that's just the gross price. As far as percentages in the last 30 days, it's down 1.01%. And for the year, it's up 31.09. So for those of you that like to track your investments and stuff, if you have something that's done more than 31.09, congratulations. If you haven't, maybe you should take a look at gold. Now, prior performance is not indicative of future performance, but boy, I got to tell you, there's a lot of indicators out there that suggest that we haven't seen nothing yet. As far as silver, let's do the same thing. It's retrieving the data. For some reason, silver is taking longer than the gold. I don't know why. Here we go. Excuse me. There's 30-day silver. Huh. For whatever reason, that didn't pull it up. We'll try one more time here. Unable to connect. Oh, let's see if we got an internet connection. Yeah, we should. Connections. Mobile hotspot. Yep, we're good. So we'll try it one more time here. I don't know why that took so long there. Okay, well, we'll move on. In fact, you know what we'll do? We'll just take and jump into all those prices we like to go over, because really that's kind of the um, key of today's market and stuff. We'll start with Bitcoin. And for whatever reason, Bitcoin's on a little bit of a run here the last few days. It's up to $10,918.60 a coin, which means it's up 0.70, 0.7%. For the week, it's up 6.5%. And then, see, earlier in the month, it was a little slow. It was down 7.95, and for the year, it's up 6.5, 6.39 to be exact. So all of a sudden, Bitcoin has started to move, and then we've got the precious metals. And as we said, we'll start with gold. Gold is $19.65.90 now an ounce. And by the way, these precious metals, all the prices I'm going to quote here are by the ounce. Silver is $27.36 an ounce. Platinum is $9.78. Excuse me. Palladium is $2,442, and rhodium is $13,600 an ounce. Imagine that, $13,600 an ounce. So the precious metals are definitely precious. And we've got the base metals, which I like to throw in here. There's nothing wrong with investing in base metals. I mean, it's what it's all about. We're talking about alternative assets here. Copper has been on a run of late. Copper is up to $3.08 a pound. And that's right. When I give you these prices on the base metals, that's per pound. So $3.08 a pound. Nickel is $6.87 a pound. Aluminum is 79 cents a pound. Zinc is $1.13 a pound. Lead is 84 cents a pound. And uranium is down a little bit. It's down to $29.80 a pound. Remember how Asa was helping me in the summer, my son, and one morning he had a real big interest in uranium, so we teased him the rest of the summer as far as his interest in uranium and everything. Crude oil is $39.38 a barrel. And I guess the Dow Jones Industrial Average opened up this morning. It's up 100 points, almost 101 points. It's at 28,096.50. So far. But I got to tell you, if you follow the market, I know you'll be able to identify with this. It's not uncommon for there to be big swings. I know yesterday the market was up a couple hundred points, even into the afternoon. And then all of a sudden, there in the last hour or so of trading, it gave away all those gains. And I can't remember exactly what it closed at, but it was up at one point 200 plus points. So, there's just a lot of volatility out there, and sometimes the volatility is caused by the silliest of things. I mean, somebody thinks that, Bill Gates has a cold, or Elon Musk has a fever, or I'm just obviously reaching for things that might be funny, and maybe fever is not something so funny right now with this COVID thing going around. But I apologize for that. I didn't mean to offend, but I'm just saying, sometimes it's the silliest thing, one of these top CEOs got a different kind of coffee at Starbucks. I mean, it's funny to me just because I've followed the market now since 1982, and I've never seen it quite so jumpy just based on, like a headline or anything. Kramer on CNBC can get on and say something, just either start flocking towards a stock or vacating a position quickly and stuff. And really when it gets right down to it, that's not what it's all about. I mean, it should be about buying companies or buying assets that you want to hold possibly forever. And so if you are in and out that quick, then it's not investing, it's more speculating. And you might as well just go to Vegas, I guess, and play some games over there or something like that, because I've never seen anybody do the short-term stuff on a long-term basis and win. You might get lucky, just like you would at a Vegas or something, but it's very rare that somebody has a long-term success rate with that kind of stuff. And I've said before, let's take in as a show, let's try and promote long-term investing, and let's also talk about making volatility our friend. If you don't recall, we've talked a lot about dollar cost averaging, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, especially if you're in a 401k where you work, or you're just doing it on your own, or whatever the scenario is. Like, let's talk gold, for example. Gold, we just mentioned, is up 400 and some dollars in the last year, even though it's down 1% in the last 30 days. So, you need to have a system to where maybe every month you're moving whatever you can afford in. Let's say it's $100. You buy $100 on the 16th of the month every month. If gold's at 2,000, you're buying a little less gold. If gold's at 1,000, you're buying a lot more gold. And that way, when you look at your portfolio after a number of years, you've got a situation where you've got a substantial amount in there, and your average price is probably less than your average cost. And dollar cost averaging works in a lot of ways. I mean, if you are a big fan of shoes, maybe every month you buy $100 worth of shoes, and maybe that's an extreme example and stuff. But anyway, let me see. We talked about the spot prices. Let's talk about the price of Eagles. And right now, a gold Eagle, now keep in mind, this is still 1 ounce of gold, but it's going to be a little bit more because the first price that we shared was the spot price. And remember, none of us get spot. Spot's the price the mine charges the mint. And then from the mint, there's different products that are created, bars and different kinds of sizes of bullion, and these Eagles. These Eagles started back in 1986. I think it was President Reagan put this Eagle program into place. And there are gold Eagles and silver Eagles. And right now, a gold Eagle, which is 1 ounce of gold, it's pressed, it's at the mint. This is for MS70 quality. MS stands for mint state, and 70 is the highest quality you can have. But right now, a gold Eagle is $2,063.56. And so there's a little bit of a premium between spot and a gold Eagle. Silver Eagles right now are $32.46. So obviously silver is less expensive, but I will tell you that it's also more volatile. And, there's a lot of folks out there that think silver's the place to be now because its demand is picking up so rapidly for, different industries. There's a lot of gold and silver used in electronics. And so that might be something to keep in mind and stuff. But those are your Eagle prices. And the reason I like to talk about Eagles is, sometimes, I always kind of think of buying the gold and the silver, to hedge the portfolio or to, protect against government that makes bad decisions, or to accumulate wealth. Basically wealth insurance is what I'm looking at there. And with these Eagles, I mean, if push comes to shove and someday you wake up and the U.S. dollar is worthless, I mean, hopefully that day never comes. But still, it's something that we talk about here because with the debt where it is, and I'm going to get into that just in a second. This will be a nice segue into that. You never know. So with Eagles, if you've got some in there at home and you're safe, all of a sudden you pull a couple of silver Eagles out and you go to the store and you can still get groceries and you can still get gas for your car and on and on and on. I mean, I would think that gold and silver would be one of those forms of currency or barter that would be, readily available since, the dollar would be worthless. And the Eagles, you can put them in your pocket. In fact, you know what? Now that I think about it, yep. Well, my money clip, for one, I don't know if you can see that, but my money clip is made out of a silver There we go. I found it. Here is now this isn't an eagle. This is a 1925 silver dollar. And I just kind of carry it around. The person that gave it to me is a mentor, so to speak, and so I keep it with me for good luck. But, I mean, that's a lot easier to carry a couple of these in your pocket and go into a store and, you know. You got to think that if an ounce of silver's 27 to $33, that's not a bad way to carry, you know, that much value when you go shopping and so forth. Anyway, the reason I like to talk about the Silver Eagle, just for a second before we get into the debt situation, is we like to help people kind of think, and this will tie several things together already that we've talked about, dollar cost averaging and putting silver in your portfolio and the Silver Eagles and stuff, but we try to help people not make the $1.2 million mistake. And some of you have heard this before, and I apologize, but you know what? I don't really, because sometimes you need to hear something 5, 10, 15 times before you start taking action. If you've already started taking action, you know, keep the path and keep going and stuff. But, you know, basically in '86 when Reagan started this Silver Eagle program, if you had started buying a Silver Eagle every month, you know, one a month, because that's all most people probably can afford. I mean, if you can afford more, fantastic. But, you know, one a month from when they started in '86 through September 1st the other day, 16 days ago, you'd have about 415 of these, give or take one or two. But it's right in that neighborhood, 415 of them. And you would have probably been out of pocket maybe about $43,000, maybe $44,000. You know, if you add up the price every month for a Silver Eagle and you know, you looked at your total cost all in. And today, that portfolio would be over $1.2 million. I know it's crazy. You're probably thinking I'm out of my mind, but I've double-checked this. In fact, I've triple-checked this. And what's weird about it, which reinforces the dollar cost averaging concept, is you never know which month, which year, you know, is going to be the most valuable. For example, the 1996 ones are over $6,000 a piece. Why 96? I don't know. I can't think of, you know, what happened in 96. Now the 99 ones are over $19,000 a piece. Now think about that for a second. If you had 12 1999 Silver Eagles and they were, you know, MS-70 condition and all that kind of stuff, you'd have about $228,000 of your $1.2 million just in those 12 coins. So not knowing, it's smart just to buy one a month because you don't know. There's a lot of folks out there that think that 2020 is going to be a really good year for Silver Eagles because of everything that's going on. And I was excited. I got 2 new coins since I was here last, and I think this is this the one I want? No, I don't want to start with that one because I think this other one, because I noticed something on this other one here. Yes, I finally got another state. You know, in this coin a month club I'm in with 7K Metals, you get a coin a month, and they've got a state series going. So there's 50 of these coins, obviously, because there's 50 states. And this last, back first week of September, for my September coin, I got one for Michigan. And it's state 9 out of 50. Now, think about it. If down the road I end up with all 50 of these Silver Eagles, you know, one for each state, that as a collection might be something worth having. And what made me really think about it a little bit was when I got to looking at the little index card or info card that comes with it, you know, year of issue 2020, U.S. Mint $1, 1 troy ounce, metal purity is .999, fine silver, And then I noticed the population is 5,500. In other words, they only made 5,500 of those. Now, I haven't been really paying attention to my other states, so I'm going to have to go back and look. But if they're only making 5,500 per state, then that means that only 5,500 complete sets might ever be out there. You know, if somebody is lucky enough and diligent enough to get all 50 of these and stuff. So it may be into a bigger reward than I'm even thinking and stuff. Let me read this to you. It says this is for Michigan. The Wolverine State, home to Motor City because of rich history of American automobile manufacturing. Michigan is much more than V8 motors and fresh paint. It is the only state that borders 4 of the 5 Great Lakes and also 2 separate land masses held together by the Mitten, in quotation marks. It boasts the most freshwater shoreline of the states and is home to an abundance of wildlife within its rich forestry. And then congratulations on taking another step towards securing your future and legacy. You deserve it. But that's the little card that comes with it. Then, of course, coming from 7K, I got my $125 travel savings card, which I can cash in and use at 400,000 hotels, resorts, and cruises worldwide. So, you know, I've got that to look forward to. But anyway, these Silver Eagles, I can't say enough about them as far as their affordability and their potential, and especially if you're getting them in the MS-70 format. Now, the other coin I got that I jumped past because I realized it wasn't the Eagle is I got a let's see here. I got a what is this? 2020 ZI Cineratus MS-70. And this is from South Korea. The mint is Comsco. Face value is 1 clay, 1 troy ounce, 0.999 purity, fine silver. Now, see, the mintage on this one is 22,000. So, and it talks a little bit about the person that's on there. Excuse me, as a member of the 12 guardians that make up the Chi-Wu clan, Radis has a special place. With a celestial robe and a dagger on her waist, Radis can sense danger coming, so everyone is prepared when it arrives. Anyone with danger as their middle name doesn't stand a chance. And this too came with the travel savings card and stuff. But this is a really attractive coin. I don't know if you can see it from that distance and stuff, Republic of Korea. And that's kind of the neat thing about this collection I've started here over the last couple of years is some of these I get are the Silver Eagles, and then when I go to the Variety series, I get these other ones, and some of them come from faraway lands. I've got a couple from Korea, Australia, China. One of my favorite ones is the one I did get from China that was a 2-ounce silver coin, not 1 ounce, but 2 ounces. And I think I brought that in several months ago when I first got it. So, but anyway, I mentioned we'll get into the some of the things about the debt, and you know, I just think this is. I was looking at this morning, and it just was one of those things where it really made me kind of go, "Holy cow! I need to talk about this on the show." If you're not familiar with this, there is an app you can get for your phone. There's a version for both Android and Apple. It's called the U.S. Debt Clock. And when you first bring it up, I mean, literally, it's running. I don't know if you can see that. I don't think you can. I wish Matt would set me up to where you could see my screen. But, I mean, literally, it's ticking away as we're speaking. Right now, the U.S. national debt is $26.7 trillion. The debt per citizen is $81,054. Debt per taxpayer, $214,844. And I mean, it's just got all kinds of categories on here. I don't have time, nor will I, you know, step you through all these numbers and go through every possible category. But I mean, it's got things like U.S. federal spending, U.S. federal budget deficit, U.S. federal spending actual, and just, I mean, U.S. federal debt to GDP ratio, things like that. Medicare, Medicaid, largest budget items. Medicare is costing 1.3 trillion. Social Security is just a little shy of 1.1 trillion. Defense and wars, 698 billion. Interest on the debt is 339 billion. Income security, 301 billion. Federal prisons, 299 billion. Food and agricultural subsidies, 155 billion. Waste, fraud, abuse, 132 billion. Classified programs, they won't even tell us what they are. But anyway, it's got total federal, state, local spending. I mean, it just has just a plethora of information here and stuff. U.S. federal tax revenue, $3 trillion per citizen, 9,261 per taxpayer, 24,571. I love the way they split that out per citizen and then per taxpayer. So in other words, there's a lot of citizens that aren't paying taxes. U.S. federal revenue to GDP ratio, U.S. federal spending, income tax revenue, payroll tax revenue, tariff tax, per adult. Charitable donations, 397 billion, almost 398 billion. In other words, $1,557 per adult. I find that amazing. I'm thinking, I'm amazed that it's not more. And there's not a lot of people out there tithing, I guess. Shock and surprise. You heard it first here on the New Gold Standard. Trade balance. U.S. debt held by foreign countries. U.S. debt held by foreign countries, 7.1 trillion. China has 1.3 of that, by the way. U.S. trade deficit, we're looking at 831 billion. Our trade deficit with China is 625 billion. We import $112 billion of oil, and from OPEC, 5,820,000 is OPEC. U.S. population, 330,000, 162, and 475. And what's funny about this program, because this morning I was having my coffee and I was looking at this, just kind of scanning through some of these categories that I never really pay attention to. I usually just look at the debt and kind of close it down. But, I mean, it literally, well, if something changes while you're watching it, it's real time. It will add or subtract while you're watching it. The U.S. population, as I said, let me see, 330,162,476. U.S. workforce, 147 million. Official unemployed, 13,432,000. Actual unemployed, 22,689,000. Now think about that for a second. How many people, and maybe you're one of them, and that's okay. I'm just acknowledging. How many people do you know that has just quit looking for work, or whatever jobs you could find were going to make you so underemployed that you just kind of gave up? So that's what that's telling you there is that there's 13.4 unemployed, and there's 22.6 million that are actually unemployed. So another let's call it 9 million folks that have just kind of given up, I guess. Private sector jobs, not in labor force now. 99,686,000. Full-time workers, 122 million. Self-employed, 8,812,000. Part-time workers, 24 million. I hope this isn't boring you. I mean, there's one I'm coming up to here in a minute. In fact, maybe I better go ahead and get there faster than later, because I don't want to lose your interest if I haven't already. U.S. bankruptcies, 850,000. U.S. foreclosures, 360,363. Those are obviously sad numbers to look at. U.S. retirees, 55 million. U.S. veterans, 20 million. U.S. homeless, 555,967 people. U.S. homeless that they know of. U.S. drug deaths, 65,683. U.S. Armed Forces, 1,400,902. U.S. disabled, 9.7 million. Medicare enrollees, 79.7 million. Now, here's one of the things that caught my eye, and I apologize for taking time to get to it and stuff. Now, listen carefully. Living in poverty in the United States, 28,327,700. I mean, that almost makes me have a tear come to my eye. I mean, think about that. Living in poverty, 28 million in poverty. Now, remember, our population was just a little over 300 million. So we've got, almost 10% of our population is living in poverty. We're supposed to be the wealthiest country in the world, and we've got 28,327,700 people living in poverty. Now, here's the next thing, because it's right next to it, and this is what really blew me away. U.S. millionaires, 18,240,473. So we've got 18 million U.S. millionaires and 28 million living in poverty. That just blows me away. These numbers are mind-boggling. 35,704,000 Americans without insurance. So, I mean, think about that for a second. Without insurance. So if they become gravely ill, how do they pay for it? Does that account for some of the bankruptcies? Does that account for some of the other statistics we've already gone through here? The suicides? I mean, I don't know. But, 35.7 million people without insurance. Food stamp recipients, 44,350,000. College tuition now is $24,034. Back in 2000, it was $11,863. Health care costs now $11,883 a year. It used to be $5,400 back in 2000, and just mind-boggling. Those have all been federal numbers. Now I can get into states, and actually, if I clicked on a button here, I can get into specific states like Missouri or Kansas or whatever state you're from. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, get this app. It's in the App Store. But I do have one other little thing I was wanting to get to. U.S. total debt, this isn't it, but just as long as I'm passing through it, scrolling by it. U.S. total debt, $81.7 trillion. Now what they've done there is they've added the debt, they've added the entitlement programs, the Medicare, the Medicaid, the Social Security, all that's been added up. They're coming up to $81.7 trillion. Now, folks, I don't know how we're going to resolve that. I know there's lots of theories out there. We don't have time to do justice to any of them, really. That's probably subject for a show on just probably each theory. But I'm just saying that, it's probably prudent to be thinking of ways to safeguard you and your families. And the best way I can think of it is with gold and silver. I mean, let's face it, it's been around for 5,000 years. It's survived several generations of people, several societies, several, different nations that have ruled the world and civilized. I mean, it's one of those things where it's, pretty safe to assume that gold and silver will survive whatever we're going through here. But anyway, get off my little soapbox for a second. Total personal debt is $20.7 trillion. Student loan debt, $1.7 trillion, about $39,000 per student. Credit card debt is about $994 billion, which is about $6,180 per holder. And savings per family, $25,947. I don't know where they got that one from, but Federal Reserve, $1,000 per household. 1,000 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 per household. 1 Unfunded interest now, debt to wealth ratio, da 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 da. Money creation, U.S. central bank assets now, 7 trillion. U.S. M2 money supply now, 18.5 trillion. A lot of you probably don't know the definition of M2, so I'll just keep going there. We can use that for another show. Currency and credit derivatives, U.S. Treasury dollars, dollar supply, dollar to citizen ratio. Okay, now here's where this is the real reason I got this up. I know I apologize. I mean, just some of these numbers just blow me away. Hopefully, they're blowing you away because they're eye openers. You know, I think so many people out there are thinking, "Oh, President Trump will get me out of this," or maybe Joe Biden will win and he'll get me out of this. And that's not going to be the case. We have to take responsibility for ourselves, each and every one of us. We have to educate ourselves and we have to take actions to protect ourselves because let's face it, I don't know if the decisions that need to be made are being made, and I don't know if they're the right decisions. Anyway, what I wanted to get to is this. The dollar to oil ratio now is $102.78 per barrel. Okay? Now remember a little while ago we mentioned oil was $38 or $39 a barrel. Back in 1913 it was $2.04 a barrel. The dollar to silver ratio is $3,984 per ounce. Now, a few minutes ago, we talked about silver's running about $27, $28 an ounce, right? If you get a Silver Eagle, it's a little more than that because of the premium. But yet, the dollar to silver ratio is $3,984 per ounce. Back in 1913, it was $2.63 per ounce. And now for the granddaddy of them all, let's talk about the gold. The dollar to gold ratio is $30,280 per ounce. Back in 1913, it was $28.96 per ounce. I tell you, if those two numbers don't inspire you to add some gold and silver at these prices, you know, the 2,000 for a gold eagle and the, let me see, let me get my computer fired up here if I can do that quickly. 32.46 for a silver eagle and 2,063.56 cents for a gold eagle. And you know, we just said that the silver dollar to silver ratio is 3,984 an ounce and the dollar to gold ratio is 30,280. I don't know if those things make you want to go out and get some of these gold and silver eagles at these prices, but it sure makes me want to. Because I got to tell you, what I'm trying to tell you is if we go back to a gold standard, that's kind of what you're going to be looking at as far as some of the numbers they're going to use to figure out, you know, how much gold needs to be backed up or how many dollars it's going to take to back up to an ounce of gold. And then funded, top 1% of the wealth. Top 1% of the wealth is 53.5 trillion. The bottom 50% of the wealth is negative 1.6 trillion. I mean, I can go on and on. There's just a lot of stuff in here as far as the dollars and stuff. And like I said, it's real time. I mean, it's going through here just since we've talked, adding literally numbers by the second. So, you know, if you like that kind of information and or you know, aren't familiar with that, U.S. Debt Clock. You can get it at the, Google Play for Android or the Apple Store. And I would highly recommend it. And or tune in here every week because we'll probably spend more and more time talking about stuff like that. Other things I brought for this week's show, because I just noticed the clock and it's we're quickly getting to the end of our hour. The power of zero. I was talking to a client here a week or two ago. The power of zero, how to get to the 0% tax bracket and transform your retirement. Written by David McKnight. You can get this on Amazon. It's a wonderful book, and the gist of it is it goes through um, what you might want to do to convert all of your assets to where they're not necessarily creating taxable income that would allow your Social Security at some point to be taxable. And there's just a lot of strategies, a lot of thought that went into this. It's an excellent book. I try to use it when it's appropriate with clients because, I mean, let's face it, everybody that qualifies for Social Security gets some. And then if you make more, usually it's around $18,000, all of a sudden your Social Security becomes taxable. And people like to stay away from that. That's where they came up with the alternative minimum tax a couple years back and stuff. But without spending a lot of time on that, The Power of Zero is a great read. I'd recommend it. It would be very educational, and in some cases, if you need help with it, by all means, if you've got an advisor, go to your advisor and see if they're familiar with it. If not, you're welcome to give me a call at 417-755-0700. I talked to Ryan Long at National Gold Consultants yesterday. He's busier than you can imagine with what's going on out there. Gold and silver is in high demand. We're working on a couple of cases ourselves, and so I would, urge you to, keep us in mind for that. And then the other thing I thought I'd mention is that we've been working hard and long on this, but we now have. Let me see if I can find it real quick, and I'll just give you the. We now have a website where you can, and we've got this all set up. I mean, it's up and running. This isn't beta tested or nothing like that. But I know I'm getting away from the gold and silver. I'm getting into some other ways to protect your family. We've got a website, and you can find it at HammockFinancialGroup.com. So HAMMOCK financialgroup.com. But now we have a way where it's the first world's multi-carrier direct-to-consumer insurance marketplace for you and your family. You get a quote, apply, and get covered. And we have things in there like life insurance, critical illness, disability insurance, accident insurance. If you're a senior, we've got all kinds of insurance programs for you. There's packages where you can get better pricing. We have legacy protection, and I'll have to do a whole show on that. We have dental and vision, I should say. Children's whole life. We have identity theft on there, which is getting more and more of a danger with this whole COVID-19. We've got a lot of these that are guaranteed issue. And then if you have a old life policy and you want to sell it, we actually have a place on there where you can plug in your information and see what it's worth. It's under Sell Your Policy. So I would urge you to go to HammockFinancialGroup.com, check it out. You can literally plug in your information, figure out which one of those you want to do or several of them. It'll come up with some quotes. You can look at those and study them, see if that's going to fit your budget. And if so, you can literally plug in your credit card. And in some cases, you can have a life policy or a disability policy within like 15 minutes. I mean, it's that quick. And Matt zipped into the room a minute ago. He's so fast these days that flashed me the 2-minute sign. So I know that everybody's probably missing Asa. In fact, I came in this morning and Matt's like, "You got any guests?" And I'm like, "No, it's just me, myself, and I." So if you're missing Asa Scott as my broadcast partner, you need to let Matt know. And maybe what we can do is we can get a signed petition or something, and we'll get Asa here when he's in town. I think he may be in town this next weekend. But if nothing else, maybe we can get him on the phone, and he can be my guest long distance from Tulsa. So like I always like to do, I like to acknowledge some of the folks that make this possible. Jim and Pam Whining, thank you for letting us come on the air this week for an entire hour. And the construction didn't cut us short there. And Dr. Paul Collins for all he does. And let's not forget Matt Pearson, station director, everything else. He wears many hats here. If you're not familiar with Matt, you should be. You should give him a big applause for all he does here, because really he kind of makes this whole thing run, and he does this for the most part, it's I think his third or fourth job, and so he's an amazing character. And other than that, goodbye, have fun, stay safe, wear your mask, and follow all the rules, and buy some gold and silver, and protect your portfolio and your family. And we'll see you next week.